The evening air hung heavy as Miles sat in his dimly lit home office, engrossed in the blue glow of his computer screen. The glow seemed to cast an eerie shadow on the walls, foreshadowing the darkness about to descend upon his life. An innocuous message notification popped up, breaking the silence that permeated the room. Opening the message, his eyes widened in disbelief as he read the words from a woman named Hannah. Her soon-to-be husband had confessed to cheating with Lily, Miles' wife, and Hannah felt Miles deserved to know the truth. The screen blurred for a moment as the weight of the revelation settled over him. But unable to comprehend the magnitude of the betrayal, Miles stumbled out of his office, his hands trembling. Lily was in the living room, absorbed in a magazine. He tried to find his voice, but the words stuck in his throat like shards of glass. "Lily," he finally croaked out, causing her to look up, innocence playing in her eyes. "What is this, Lily? What have you done?" She looked at the screen, and for a moment, panic flickered across her face. "Miles, I can explain. It's not what you think." His heart pounded in his chest, the air thick with tension. "Explain? Explain what, Lily? But you cheated on me, on us?" Her eyes darted around, searching for a way out. "Miles, please listen. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I love you." The words hung in the air like poison, and Miles felt a surge of anger. "Love? And after all these years, you throw it away for something. Tell me the truth, Lily." She stammered, attempting to form a coherent sentence. But Miles shook his head in disbelief. "I trusted you, Lily. Our whole life was built on trust, and you shattered it." As the reality of the situation sank in, the room felt smaller, the air heavier. Miles couldn't fathom how the life he knew it had unraveled so swiftly. "Who is he, Lily? And don't lie this time." Her eyes dropped, and she mumbled a name. A name that would forever be etched in Miles' memory as the catalyst for the unraveling of his world. The room echoed with silence, broken only by the distant hum of a city that remained oblivious to the personal earthquake shaking Miles to his core. The following days felt like a slow descent into a surreal nightmare for Miles. The revelation hung heavy over his home, casting a pallor over the life he once knew. As the sun dipped below the horizon, he sat across from Lily at the kitchen table, the air charged with tension. "You owe me the truth," Lily, Miles demanded, his eyes piercing through the facade of the woman he thought he knew. Lily hesitated, her gaze flitting between her hands and Miles' unwavering stare. "Miles, I made a terrible mistake. It was just a moment of weakness. I never meant to hurt you." "See, a moment of weakness? Don't belittle this, Lily. A moment of weakness doesn't involve planning, deceit, and secrecy," he retorted, frustration seeping into his voice. Oh, tears welled in her eyes, and she reached for his hand, but he pulled away. "Please, Miles, let's not make any rash decisions. We can work through this. I love you, and I'm so sorry." The sincerity in her eyes clashed with the betrayal he felt. "Enough. Love doesn't betray. It doesn't lie. What we had is irreparably damaged, Lily. You shattered our foundation." As the days passed, Miles found himself revisiting the moments leading to the revelation. He couldn't shake the feeling that Lily's infidelity was meticulously planned during his business trip. The pieces fell into place, and he confronted her with his suspicions. "You knew about my trip months in advance," Miles observed, his voice laced with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "Was this planned? Did you orchestrate this betrayal while I was away?" Lily's eyes darted away, confirming his suspicions. "I didn't plan it, Miles. It just happened." "It just happened?" Miles coughed. "Nothing just happens. You had months to reconsider, to be honest with me. Instead, you chose to betray everything we built." The room echoed with the bitterness of their exchange, the silence that followed amplifying the chasm growing between them. Miles realized that reconciliation was an impossibility. The emotional detachment had begun, an unbridgeable gap forged by the truth he never wanted to face. As he retreated to his now desolate home office, he couldn't shake the weight of the decisions that lay ahead. Divorce loomed on the horizon, an inevitability he couldn't escape. The life he had known was slipping through his fingers, replaced by the harsh reality of betrayal. The once vibrant walls of Miles' home seemed to close in on him, echoing with the emptiness of broken promises and shattered trust. As the days wore on, the emotional detachment between Miles and Lily deepened, casting an eerie silence over their shared spaces. Miles found himself wandering through the familiar rooms like a specter, an ethereal presence in a home that had lost its warmth. But one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Miles and Lily sat in the living room. The air felt heavy with unspoken words, a palpable tension that neither dared to break. Sure, I can't keep living like this. Lily and Miles finally spoke, his gaze fixed on a distant point beyond the walls. Lily shifted uncomfortably, her eyes avoiding his. Miles, please, let's not give up so easily. We can rebuild. We can make this right. He turned to her, his eyes reflecting a pain she couldn't fathom. Thirst to beat it. There's no making this right, Lily. You've irreversibly changed everything. As they moved through the motions of daily life, Miles felt the weight of the unspoken truth pressing down on him. The kitchen, once filled with laughter and shared meals, now held the echoes of a love that had turned to ash. One evening, Miles found himself standing in the doorway of their bedroom, watching Lily as she prepared for bed. The familiarity of the scene was suffocating. A stark reminder of the life they had shared. "See us, Miles, can we talk?" Lily asked, breaking the oppressive silence. He sighed, a heavy exhale filled with resignation. What is there left to say, Lily? The silence between us speaks louder than any words. She reached out to him, her hand hovering in the air before retreating. The only way seeing you like this? I hate what I've done to us, Lily confessed. Seeing what you've done, Miles muttered, bitterness lacing his words. And we were a team, Lily. But now I feel like a ghost in my own home. The admission hung in the air, a poignant declaration of the irreparable damage inflicted on their once harmonious life. As Miles retreated to the solitude of his home office, the walls seemed to close in further, suffocating him with the realization that the life he knew had become a mere shadow of its former self. The revelation of Lily's betrayal weighed heavily on Miles, but an even darker truth lurked in the shadow. The suspicion that his 3 daughters were aware of the affair. As he navigated through the strained atmosphere in his home, the notion of his own flesh and blood keeping such a devastating secret became a festering wound in his heart. But one evening, as the family gathered for dinner, the tension in the room was palpable. Miles sat at the head of the table, his daughters glancing nervously at each other, unaware of the storm brewing within their father. Something's changed, Dad. What's going on? Asked the youngest daughter, Hannah, her voice tinged with concern. Miles hesitated, his eyes locking onto each of his daughters. What's going on is that our family has been shattered, and it seems I'm the last one to know, Miles said, his voice filled with confusion and worry. The daughters exchanged uneasy glances. Lily, seated beside Miles, remained silent, her gaze fixed on her plate. Did any of you know about your mother's affair? Miles finally asked, his voice strained with a mixture of anger and desperation. The eldest daughter, Ella, looked down, avoiding eye contact. Dad, it's not that simple. We didn't hurt you, Ella explained. Hurt me? Miles scoffed, the pain evident in his eyes. Keeping such a secret is a betrayal I never expected from my own daughters. The middle daughter, Sophia, attempted to speak. Dad, we thought? He cut her off, the anger bubbling to the surface. What did you think, Sophia? That you could shield me from the truth? That it wouldn't hurt as much if you all kept it a secret? Hannah, the youngest, interjected, her voice trembling. Dad, we were just trying to protect you. We didn't want to see our family fall apart. The room fell silent, the weight of the unspoken truth hanging in the air. Miles excused himself, leaving the table and retreated to the solitude of his home office. He couldn't comprehend the depth of the betrayal and the idea that his daughters had conspired to keep such a secret tore at the very fabric of his being. As the days unfolded, Miles grappled with conflicting emotions. The love he had showered on his daughters now mingled with a profound sense of hurt and betrayal. The fractured family dynamics added another layer to the pain, leaving him questioning the very foundation of the life he had dedicated himself to building. The days rolled on, each one heavier than the last for Miles, as he grappled with the wreckage of his once stable life. The revelation of Lily's betrayal and her daughter's complicity lingered like a storm cloud, threatening to unleash torrents of emotion at any moment. The inevitability of divorce hung in the air, casting a shadow over the home that was once a sanctuary. One evening, Miles and Lily sat in the living room, the silence between them suffocating. The weight of unspoken words pressed on Miles, and he knew that the time for decisive action had come. Lily, we need to talk about the future, Miles said, his voice heavy with resignation. She nodded, avoiding his gaze. I know, Miles. I never meant for any of this to happen. "That doesn't change what did happen," he replied, his eyes searching hers for any flicker of remorse. The room seemed to close in on them, the walls echoing with the disintegration of their shared history. "I've consulted with a lawyer," Miles confessed, "going to discuss the terms of our separation." Lily's eyes widened, realization dawning. "Miles, please, can't we find another way? We can go to therapy, work through this. I don't want our family to fall apart." "Our family fell apart the moment you chose to betray it," Miles retorted, his patience wearing thin. "Therapy won't change what's been done." As the conversation grew more heated, Miles grappled with the complexities of dividing a life built over 25 years. The legalities of divorce, the separation of assets, and the emotional turmoil became a tangled web that he had to navigate. At a moment of vulnerability, Miles confided in a close friend who had experienced a similar betrayal. "What would you do, Blake? How do you move on from this?" Blake sighed, a weight of understanding in his eyes. "Rebuild, Miles. Focus on yourself, your own well-being. The rest will follow." As Miles faced the daunting task of untangling their intertwined lives, he found himself caught between a desire for closure and the fear of stepping into an unknown future. The emotional detachment from Lily grew stronger, and the prospect of starting anew became both a daunting challenge and a glimmer of hope. As he navigated through legal consultations and emotional turbulence, Miles began to realize that the journey ahead was one of self-discovery. The decision to divorce wasn't just an end, but a beginning, a chance to redefine himself beyond the shattered fragments of the life he once knew. First-hand steptitties, the once familiar corridors of Miles' home echoed with the footsteps of uncertainty, and a growing sense of isolation permeated every room. The inevitability of divorce weighed on him, casting a long shadow on the remnants of a life that had crumbled before his eyes. As Miles grappled with the dawning task of dismantling the life he had built, a tempting idea took root, a desire to escape. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Miles found himself pacing the living room, the weight of his decisions pressing on him like a vice. The conversation with Blake lingered in his mind, and the notion of leaving everything behind. Cutting ties with his family and seeking solace in a distant land became an appealing escape. His thoughts of escape began to manifest as he browsed travel websites, contemplating destinations that held the promise of anonymity and self-discovery. The allure of Thailand, with its distant shores, and the possibility of starting anew, beckoned like a siren's call. In the midst of his contemplation, a friend, Nora, who had been through a tumultuous divorce herself, reached out to Miles. And over coffee, she shared her story of resilience and self-discovery. "Miles, sometimes the only way to find peace is to step away from the chaos. It doesn't mean running forever, but a temporary escape can be a powerful reset," Nora advised, her gaze filled with empathy. "Leaving everything behind feels like a betrayal, Nora. But staying feels like I'm suffocating," Miles admitted, his eyes reflecting the internal turmoil. "Betrayal is what happened to you, not the other way around. Taking time for yourself doesn't diminish your love for your family. It's an act of self-preservation," Nora reassured him. As the idea of escape took root, Miles contemplated the logistics. He considered the practicalities of leaving, cutting ties, and embarking on a journey of self-healing. Yet the fear of legal repercussions and the uncertainty of what lay ahead wrestled with the desire for liberation. In a moment of vulnerability, Miles broached the subject with Blake, seeking guidance once. "Blake, leaving feels like the only way to breathe again. But I'm scared of the fallout. What if I'm making a mistake?" Blake sighed, understanding the gravity of the decision. "Miles, there are no easy answers in situations like this. But sometimes, stepping away is the only way to gain clarity. It's your journey, and only you can decide when and how to take the next step." The temptation of escape became a constant companion, a lingering thought that danced at the edge of Miles' consciousness. As he weighed the pros and cons, the allure of solitude and the promise of healing tugged at his weary soul. The journey ahead remained uncertain, but the idea of leaving it all behind held the promise of reclaiming a sense of self that had been lost in the wreckage of his shattered life. The decision to confront his daughters about their knowledge of Lily's affair weighed heavily on Miles as he grappled with the betrayal that extended beyond his marriage. Yet the air in the house crackled with unspoken tension, and the lingering uncertainty festered like an open wound. One evening, as dinner unfolded in the strained atmosphere, Miles found himself unable to ignore the elephant in the room any longer. The time for confrontation had arrived, and he gathered his daughters in the living room, a palpable tension hanging in the air. "Dad, what's going on?" Ally, the eldest, asked, her eyes searching his face for answers. Miles took a deep breath, steeling himself for the conversation that had the potential to reshape their family dynamic. "I need to know the truth. Did any of you know about your mother's affair?" The room fell silent, the daughters exchanging uneasy glances. Sophia, the middle daughter, hesitated before speaking. "Dad, we didn't know about it until recently. We never wanted to hurt you." Hannah, the youngest, added, "We thought telling you would break our family. We didn't want to see you hurt." Miles looked at each of them, his gaze a mix of disappointment and heartache. Keeping such a secret is a betrayal I never expected from my own daughters. Ella attempted to explain, "Dad, we were just trying to protect you." Miles cut her off, the pain evident in his eyes. "What did you think, Ella? But you could shield me from the truth. That it wouldn't hurt as much if you all kept it a secret." Sophia interjected, her voice tinged with regret. "Dad, we were scared. We didn't know what to do." That trance, the room reverberated with the weight of the unspoken truth, a truth that had strained their family bonds to the breaking point. Miles excused himself, leaving the room and retreated to the solitude of his home office. Within the confines of that familiar space, he struggled to reconcile the love he felt for his daughters with the profound sense of betrayal that lingered. The decision to confront them brought forth a painful truth. And as Miles grappled with the aftermath, he questioned the very foundations upon which he had built his life. As he pondered the path ahead, a voice echoed in his mind. The advice of friends, the temptation of escape, and the undeniable fact that his family had become a fractured mosaic. A confrontation or silence. The choice loomed, and Miles found himself at a crossroads, uncertain of the road that would lead him towards healing or further into the abyss of family secrets. With the weight of his shattered world pressing on him, Miles found solace in the idea of escaping to a distant Thailand, with its promise of tranquility and self-discovery, called out to him like a sanctuary far removed from the chaos of his unraveling life. In a moment of decision, Miles booked a one-way ticket to Thailand, his heart heavy with the realization that this journey might be his last chance for redemption. As he informed Lily of his decision, the air between them crackled with the finality of a choice that would alter the course of their lives. "Miles, don't do this. We can work through this. I promise things can get better," Lily pleaded, her eyes desperate for a reprieve from the impending separation. He sighed, the weight of his emotions palpable. "Lily, there's nothing left for us to salvage. I need to find some semblance of peace, and right now that means leaving." The airport terminal became a symbol of departure, both physically and metaphorically. Miles stood among the bustling crowd, his heart heavy with the baggage of his past. The daughters, though aware of his departure, remained distant, their expressions a mix of guilt and remorse. As he prepared to board the flight, Hannah, the youngest, approached him with tears in her eyes. "Dad, please don't go. We can fix this. I promise we'll find a way." Miles crouched down to her level, a tenderness in his eyes. "Hannah, some wounds need time to heal. Maybe distance will bring clarity. I need to do this for myself. And maybe in the process we'll all find a way to move forward." He boarded the plane, leaving behind the familiar landscape for the unknown expanse of Thailand. The journey was both a physical and emotional odyssey, a quest for understanding and healing. In the vibrant chaos of Bangkok, Miles felt like a stranger, an outsider seeking refuge. As he explored the temples and markets, the cacophony of a foreign culture served as a backdrop to the silence within him. The journey became a meditation, an opportunity to confront the demons that haunted him. During a quiet moment on a beach in Koh Samui, Miles found himself in conversation with a fellow traveler, Victoria, who shared a similar tale of heartbreak and resilience. Her words resonated with him, a lifeline in the sea of uncertainty. "Sometimes leaving is the only way to find yourself again. Embrace the unknown, you might discover strength you never knew existed," Victoria advised, her eyes reflecting the wisdom of her own journey. The days turned into weeks, and Miles immersed himself in the tranquility of the Thai islands. Each sunrise and sunset carried a promise of renewal, a chance to rebuild amidst the ruins of his past. As he delved into the intricacies of Thai culture and philosophy, Miles found a new perspective on life, one that transcended the confines of betrayal and loss. The journey to Thailand became a transformative chapter, a space for introspection and healing. As Miles navigated the unknown, he discovered that sometimes leaving behind the familiar is the only way to rediscover the essence of oneself. Thank you for listening to the story until the end, and if you enjoyed it, please support us with a like and subscribe to our channel. Share your thoughts about the story in the comments.